Hello, I'm Yusuf Farim, and welcome to this special live edition of Strait Talk, where we're continuing TRT World's coverage of the U.S. and Israeli war on Iran. In the second week of the conflict, U.S. President Donald Trump has signaled the war on Iran could be over very soon. After 2 missiles were intercepted in Turkish airspace over the past week, Ankara says a U.S. Patriot air defense system has been deployed in the country's southeast. In the Gulf, the UAE and Saudi Arabia said they've intercepted missile and drone attacks coming from Iran. Meanwhile, Damascus is accusing Hezbollah of attacking its forces as displaced people flee into Syria from Lebanon. To break this all down, joining me now from Washington, D.C. is James Jeffrey. He's a former U.S. ambassador to Turkey and Iraq and special representative for Syria engagement. From Riyadh, Dr. Abdulaziz Sager. He's the founder and chairperson of the Gulf Research Center. And from Ankara, Gülru Gezer. She's a former Turkish diplomat. I have quite an expert panel with me today, and I'm very happy to see all 3 of you. Ambassador Jeffrey, I want to begin with you. I mean, the big headline right now is Trump saying that the war could be over very soon. How do you see him realizing that statement? I mean, what type of off-ramp would it be? What type of rhetoric would be coming out of the White House?
First, thanks for having me on. Second, President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu began this conflict. They didn't begin the conflict. The conflict's been going on for many years. They began this particular campaign. Iran has a say in when this ends. What the president is signaling is the maximalist goal at the beginning of overthrowing the regime by what we call a decapitization strike of the leadership did not work. The IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards, are still in control of the country. They've picked the son of the former supreme leader to be their at least formal leader, but they're running the place and they're resisting in every way possible. So what Trump has done is, I believe, reduced his war goal to degrading the nuclear, long-range missile, and overall military capability of Iran. That will not eliminate Iran as a destabilizing factor in the region. It will reduce, however, the threat of Iran to produce another war like we saw from October 2023 to June of 2025, which had the whole region in one or another level of war, including in Syria, Turkey. So therefore, I think that's a reasonable goal, but we still have to achieve it, and the Iranians have to stop shooting too.
Okay, so it looks like a downgrading goal, but an earlier exit than previously estimated. Can we say that? Okay. Dr. Sager, I want to continue with you.
Right, and the reason is...
sorry about that. Dr. Sager, I want to continue with you. You heard Ambassador Jeffrey. I mean, and Trump wants, it seems that he wants to get out of this as soon as possible. If the objectives are downgraded and we're not going to see regime change in Iran, potentially a degraded capabilities of Iran, is this going to make the region a safer place, or is Iran just going to rearm, resupply, and be back in a couple of years?
Well, first, thank you for having me with you today, and glad to be with you. I think reducing Iran capability does not make the region safe and does not make it more secure than what it used to be, because it is we call it here in the region, it's the Netanyahu war after 7 meetings with President Trump trying to convince him to go for such a war. And what we see today, that there must have been underestimating of the Iranian capability and respond. If they have been successful in destroying the long-range missile capability or the launcher, I'm sure still Iran possess short-range missile that can represent the Gulf region more. And also they do have some suicide boats, fast boat that they can use to disturb also the maritime. Yes, the US have declared that they have destroyed 50 of the Iranian Navy vessels, but still the Iranian can use drone, they can use short-range missiles, they can use floating mines, and they also can use underwater capability. And all of that still can continuously represent a threat on the access of the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, I think what we need today is we need to have a clear decision from the US side. Regime replacement did not happen. So are they talking about fragmentation on the regime? Are they talking about encouraging certain sectors in the country to start a domestic uprising, and they count on that uprising? When we saw the 1991 surrender by Iraqi on that Safwan agreement tent, it took until 2003 until we saw Saddam out of the regime in Iraq. The question is, are they weakening the regime now, or they are pushing for what they call total surrender, or the regime change? So there is no regime change. Regime have continued to threaten not only the Gulf country, but a great neighbor like Turkey. And we have condemned the attack that happened against Turkey from Saudi Arabia and also other Gulf countries. But look at now, Turkey, Iraq, Cyprus, also Jordan, many other countries have been in that list. So the question, do the Iranians have enough capability to go for a long-range attack against the neighborhood, or they're going to focus it on the immediate neighbor like the Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Bahrain, Kuwait, and UAE? What we have seen until today, more than 1,000 attacks between missiles and drone, and they're not stopping, despite of the statement we heard last night from President Trump. Still, they are continuing to send the drones and to send the missiles.
Mm-hmm. Guru, in the event this war does end in a couple of days, I mean, your scorecard, who would be the winner and the loser among the belligerents and also countries in the region or the expanded region?
Well, Yusuf, I
but
think...
unless we have a real...
I'm moving on to Guru, Dr. Sager.
Yes. Well, Yusuf, I don't think there will really be a winner in this war, neither among the belligerents or the countries in the region. First of all, I want to say that this war has been a turning point for the region. Just yesterday or the day before, the Prime Minister of Qatar said that things will never be the same. And I agree with his statement, because the regional countries weren't expecting Iran to react the way it is reacting, including Turkey, Azerbaijan, and all of the countries. So even if today the war ends, I think there will be fundamental shifts in the region within the framework of the internal dynamics of Iran, within the framework of Iran's relations with its neighboring countries, and the neighboring countries' stance towards Iran. So even if the war ends sometime soon, we will see the repercussions in the coming weeks and months, and especially with regards to the energy matter. I mean, now we see that most of the countries in the Gulf have declared a force majeure. So it will take, I think, months, not weeks, for them to start producing in full capacity. And this will have ramifications, I mean, global ramifications. And I don't think Israel can actually claim a victory. The US can't really claim a victory. And for Iran, if the regime stays as it is, maybe it might say, this is a victory for us. But it would be very difficult for the US or Israel, Netanyahu and Trump, to sell it to their own constituents. They're going to an election, and it's an election year for both countries. And I think they have found themselves in a very, very difficult position.
Mm-hmm. Ambassador Jeffrey, I mean, there's very few Americans that probably know the region as well as you. I mean, close to a decade at very high postings, ambassador to Turkey, again, mission chief in Iraq, special envoy to Syria. So you know many of the countries here very, very well. How do you see the U.S. relationships in a post-war period? I mean, will it be the same? Are countries changing their perception of the United States? And also, if there is peace, where does that leave Israel?
Well, if there's a real peace, Israel will be very happy, the Israeli people, because the main threat to Israel over the past decades has been Iran and its proxy network. Now, the proxy network was largely defeated between 2023 and 2025. You know the step-by-step history of that. If the Iranian missile stocks can be dramatically reduced, and I think we will achieve that. That will mean Israel is safer too. They've had very few serious hits in Israel from the large barrage of missiles between the reduction of missiles fired and Israeli interception. The problem is that Israel lives in a region that will be in some respects, as both of my colleagues have said, that will be more insecure because the Gulf states watched as Iran set much of the region around them on fire, with a little help from the rest of us, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen, and in Gaza, but figured that their alliance with the United States would protect them, that we would somehow keep Iran from messing with them. Well, it turns out that the United States attack on Iran, along with the Israeli attack, has pulled them into the fight. Now, that gets to who the winners and losers. The United States, as I said, Israel will be a winner in the sense that the two threats it worries most about, nuclear and missiles, will have been dramatically degraded, and as mentioned, the proxy threat has also been degraded. For the Arab states, however, the ability, as we've heard from my colleagues, Iran to strike those states' infrastructure, particularly oil and gas infrastructure, is so dramatic that they will be weakened. On the other hand, Iran will be weakened because it managed to pull everybody in the region together by its dramatic, undifferentiated attack on every state in the region, going as far as Azerbaijan and Cyprus. And so that was a mistake on Iran's part. If it had focused just on the Gulf states, it would have achieved the same oil market result without, in essence, pulling everybody together. Now, everybody understands that Iran is a permanent threat to the region as long as you have this Islamic government.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Sager, I want to ask you about the Gulf security. I mean, Ambassador Jeffrey touched on it, saying the expectation is that the United States would be a security provider. Now, when we look at the threat assessment, I mean, just the UAE alone has taken on more missile attacks than Israel has. Saudi Arabia targeted, Doha, Qatar targeted. Even Oman has been targeted, a country that has tried to be a mediator, the base in Bahrain, and the list goes on and on and on. First, were you expecting this type of targeting of Gulf countries, Dr. Sager? And secondly, it seems that there's some grumblings towards the United States. I mean, we've seen it amongst some of the Emiratis who are generally very quiet, a lot more vocal than in the past. Saudi Arabia probably doesn't seem too happy either. Senator Graham, very vocal about Saudi Arabia, saying that they should enter the war, they should fight themselves. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, let's get the first part of the question. Did we expect, this attitude and behavior from Iran, sending, killing innocent people and attacking critical facility and residential area and airport and harbor? No. Because we thought we had a better relation with Iran. We thought we delivered the message very clear to Iran that we are not going to allow the usage of our airspace, navy, or land for any attack against them. We thought after the March 2023 between Saudi Arabia and Iran, the meeting that was hosted by the Chinese, that everything was clear. So honestly, we were extremely disappointed. And also we could not accept their story that they are targeting a U.S. military target in all those places that they have sent missiles and attack to it, and drones also. So there is a disappointment. There is a sort of surprising on that position that they have taken. Although some of them, they have leaked the information and they said if they are attacked by the U.S., they will attack in the region. but we thought that was a tactical statement rather than implementable statement. On the second issue, yes, the US, they did focus on protecting themselves and carrying on the operation, but luckily we have a good defensive capability to protect. What Congressman Lindsey Graham said yesterday in his tweet, I was a bit surprised with such a tweet from his side coming, because he understands that the attack that took place on the US Embassy in Riyadh came from Iraq. And I think it was the US military forces in Iraq who knew about the constant military supply and weapon supply from the Iranian to al-Hashd al-Sha'bi in Iraq. They saw them, they understood what capability they have, and they almost closed eyes for that. And this is a result of the creation of al-Hashd al-Sha'bi and allowing it that as a violent non-state actors start attacking the neighborhood, also the US bases in Iraq. So we can defend ourselves, but at the same time, two reasons why we did not get involved on the operation, the military operation on attacking in Iran. One, we think the US presence and capability, the US capability and the Israeli capability, they don't need any additional capability to launch any attack on Iran. Second, we decided not to be part of that one, because if we decide to be part of it, then we have to use the US sharing of intelligence and satellite and reconnaissance. And that will put us in a position where we had to collaborate with the Israeli. And many countries in the Gulf region still, they don't have relation with Israel, and they do not wish to be in that side. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when we said we would not allow the usage of our airspace and land, should the Iranian continue to send their rockets and send their missiles and drone to us, maybe the region will revisit the commitment of providing US some facilities according to their niche. The area where I feel the Gulf countries can participate with the US on the maritime security, on securing the Strait of Hormuz, because that's an international responsibility. And I think a joint effort could be between Gulf countries, the US and the European and the rest, to ensure the Strait of Hormuz safety and security and the right of passage from there.
Mm-hmm. Gudru, I want to ask you about these two missiles that have been intercepted in Turkish airspace using NATO air and missile defense elements in the Eastern Mediterranean. The first one happened. There was a denial coming from the Iranian side. Now a second missile originating from Iran again, intercepted. There's now U.S. Patriot missiles deployed in Malatya, right by a very critical radar station in Kurecik. Is Erdogan now losing his patience with the Iranians? Because it seems like the rhetoric's been dialed up. Fidan talked with his counterpart as well, putting Iran on notice. Are things tense at the moment?
Well, I'm sure he's not happy about it. It is the second incident in the past 5 days. And Yusuf, I would like to remind our audience that in the weeks leading to the war, the U.S. did not use Turkey's airspace. We do not have a U.S. base in Turkey, and Turkey really stepped up its efforts, diplomatic efforts, so that we could prevent this war. And after all of these, to have these two, missiles launched towards Turkey, luckily intercepted, I don't think, of course, Ankara is happy with Iran's stance. And President Erdogan openly said that this was wrong. Actually, Foreign Minister Fidan was very clear last week when the first incident happened. But then, as you've said, Iran apologized, and they also denied it. But of course, I think Turkey has made it very clear that it has the capacity to respond to these threats. And we must not forget that Turkey is also a NATO member. It hasn't invoked Article 4 yet, and Article 5, but that doesn't mean that if Iran continues with this type of behavior, that it won't invoke Article 4 or if something undesirable happens, invoke Article 5. And I don't think Iran would ever want that to happen. But we are also well aware of the fact that there are certain elements within Iran that want to draw Turkey into this war. And we do not want to be a part of this war. In the weeks leading, as I've said, I want to underscore that, in the weeks leading to the conflict, and even now, Turkey is sparing a lot of diplomatic effort to decrease the tensions.
Ambassador Jeffrey, if Trump is going to end this war much earlier than previously expected, when we look at his statement saying 4 weeks and then September, so obviously this would be much earlier, how much is the Gulf pressure, especially with these energy assets being hit, its impact on the economy, weighing on his decision to end earlier than expected? And also, can you evaluate the impact of what's been happening in Iraq and Syria as well, two countries that you closely followed throughout your career?
Yeah, as I said, the Iranians have not been successful reconstituting their proxy network, nor in assembling the remnants under the rocks of its nuclear program, and they're running out of long-range missiles and launchers to shoot at Israel, which has been very successful, like the Saudis have been, and the Emiratis have been shooting them down. But the one thing Iran has done, and that's putting the pressure on Trump, is the impact on oil markets, and that is strategically decisive. Why we missed this when we went into this thing is beyond me, because everybody predicted they could do this, and we knew how they would do it, exactly what you're seeing. So on that basis, President Trump is going to have to, I think, soon end the war, because you cannot eliminate totally all of the drones that you can fire from backyards, from shops all around Iran, nor can you eliminate thousands of pieces of artillery. I'm talking about artillery, not missiles and rockets, that can take ships as they pass through the Straits of Hormuz under fire. So we have a military stalemate here. Now, in terms of Iraq, the Hashishabi, as Abdulaziz said, have been shooting. We've been shooting back, but it seems to be, as it was during the 2023-2025 war, relatively limited. Prime Minister al-Sudani is a very reasonable guy. He wants to stay out of this fight. Al-Shara also has done the necessary things, moving troops to the Lebanese border to ensure that Hezbollah doesn't or anybody else come across. So I think both countries are staying with both the consensus in the region, earning points, in the case of al-Shara, importantly with Israel, and maintaining their ties to America. So I'm happy about that. I mean, there's some good news here.
Okay. Dr. Sager, last time we were together, it was about a month ago when I was in Riyadh, and part of our conversation, we were talking about collective defense. There was a lot of whispers about Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey getting together. Do you think after this war, countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar will think more about a future new regional architecture? Because this is something that's been talked about a lot. And sometimes it's been identified as a Muslim NATO, different identifications, labels, or brandings. But do you think that this might be the catalyst that brings about action?
Well, given all the incidents that took place in the region and the war and the escalation, I think we need to revisit the whole security architecture arrangement in our part of the world. In other words, we need to look at the regional power, being it Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and also we need to look at how do we come out with the better security architecture with the Iranian. Although we are disappointed and we cannot trust the Iranian as much as we used to before now, but we still need to keep a dialogue with them. We need to keep that dialogue to reach a sort of a security architecture for their own sake. If we can convince Iran by focusing on the domestic issue in their 100 million population and using their resources to develop their country domestically, that will be far better. And so, but I think also we need to reach with Israel a sort of an agreement, because somehow with the continuous Israeli idea of expansionism in Syria and in Lebanon and these places, that does not help. This increases the radicalism and the militia in the region operation, and the militia justification of doing something there. So I think we need to revisit the whole security architecture. We need to see all the different stakeholders. We need to come out with a proper one that will ensure security and stability. On the energy issue, just a quick word, by the way, gas is more affected than the oil, because Saudi Arabia have been able to use their east-west pipeline to export through the Red Sea close to 7 million barrels today. There is a drop about 6.7 million barrels that could not go through the Strait of Hormuz, and that's the shortage. But also in the oil, I think we can fill the gap through different sources and through different countries. It's the gas, because Qatar, UAE, Iran uses the Strait of Hormuz to export through it, and this is why we have seen the increase in prices and the difficulty. And it will take some time, as the ambassador said, to fix it. It's not going to be overnight. But still, I think we need to have a decision from Washington. We need to know, where do they stand? What is it that they want? How can we reach an agreement? What sort of ceasefire? In the last 12 days war, he just decided to stop the war, and he finished. Last night, he gave some statement. The market responded positive to it. This morning, we heard the Minister of War or the State of War in the U.S., and then, it's a different statement. So we need to know, where are we heading exactly, to be able to narrow the focus on the effort of ending such a war.
Dr. Sager, thank you for that. But we are out of time. Ambassador Jeffrey, Dr. Sager, Guru Gezer, thank you for joining me. Looking forward to hearing your comments again in the future. That's all for this edition of Strait Talk with me, Yusuf Aram. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can follow us on X at Strait Talk TRT, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Good day, and thank you for watching.